Welcome to the Wodonga Middle Years Remembrance Day service. I would like to ask that all hats are removed and phones are on silent. I would like to acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are the traditional custodians of the land. I would also like to pay respect to the people both past, present and emerging. I extend that respect to other Aboriginal Australians who are present. I would like to acknowledge that this meeting is being held on Dura land and recognise the strength, resilience and capacity of the Aboriginal people.
Today is a day when we take the time to reflect and acknowledge those who died or suffered while serving in wars, conflicts and peace operations. Remembrance Day is held on November 11th every year, where we observe 1 minute silence at the 11th hour of the 11th month, because that is when the armistice came into effect. An armistice is an agreement between opposing countries to suspend or end conflict. At 11 o'clock on the 11th of November 1918, the First World War ended. I'd like to introduce our guest speaker, Wo1 Serge Parad, RSM ASO, who will be providing a commemorative address.
We stand here this morning on Wiradjuri land. I acknowledge the traditional owners of the country that we are on and recognise the continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respect to elders past and present. The First World War ended more than a century ago. The fighting stopped when an armistice between the Allied powers and Germany came into effect at 11 o'clock on the morning of 11 November 1918. Millions had lost their lives during the war, among them more than 60,000 Australian service personnel, about 1 in 5 of those who served overseas. Many thousands were more wounded in body or mind. During the war and after its end, survivors returned home to a country both grateful for their service and traumatised by the war's enormous cost. The dead lay in cemeteries and unmarked graves around the world, from New Britain in the southwest Pacific to Mesopotamia, Gallipoli and the Sinai, Palestine and the United Kingdom. But nowhere on earth do Australia's war dead lie in greater numbers than in the soil of Western Front in France and Belgium. The momentous announcement that the fighting was over on this front, and with it the war, was met with joyful celebrations around Australia, but joy was neither universal nor unqualified. Too many had died, too many more were wounded or made ill by their war service. Everywhere communities knew the pain of losing fondly remembered men. Across the country, memorials were erected in honour to those who had served to remember the dead. In 1919, Britain's King George V proclaimed 2 minutes of silence at 11 a.m. on the 11th of November. At the appointed hour, people around Australia, many gathered around before local memorials, paused together in common reflection, remembering the dead and beginning a tradition that has endured for more than a century. In time, Australia's war memorials would come to honour the fallen of the Second World War and many of the other conflicts and operations which Australians have served. Today, the Australian War Memorial's Roll of Honour lists the names of more than 102,000 Australians who have lost their lives in war and conflict. As we pause on Remembrance Day, our thoughts turn to war's enormous cost and the toll it takes, not only to those who fall, but to all those who serve and their families.
The Ode of Remembrance is a poem that has been recited to commemorate wartime service and sacrifice since 1921 and was first read at the laying of inauguration stone at the Australian War Memorial in Canberra in 1929. The Ode of Remembrance will be read by Bella Salis. They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them, lest we forget. During the First World War, red poppies were among the first plants to grow on the Western Front in Europe. They bloomed across the wasted battlefields on northern France and Belgium. These poppies inspired Canadian Medic Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae to write in Flanders Field, which will be read by Harlow Davis.
In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the lark still bravely singing fly. Scars heard amid the guns below. We are the dead, short days ago. We lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow. Loved and were loved, now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw. The torch be yours to hold it high, if ye break faith with us who die. We shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
In military tradition, the last post is the bugle call that signifies the end of the day's battle. The last post is played by Ross Draper and will be followed by 1 minute silence, and then the national anthem sung by our school choir. Can everyone please stand? We would like to thank you for your attendance for our Remembrance Day ceremony and ask that at 11 a.m. you have a minute silence to reflect on those that have served and continue to serve.